All right, guys. Hopefully we're all here for the same thing. It's great that we have this big of a turnout. Tonight, all of your questions, hopefully, if not all, then most at least, will be answered concerning our Disney trip. It will be live streamed on our YouTube channel, Terre Haute North Bands. So if you go home tonight and you forget something, and you're like, what was that one thing he said? It'll be on there and stay up there for quite a while. So the video will be up there for you to refer back to answer some questions. Without further ado, I'm going to turn you over to our travel agent, Greg, and he will, sorry for the lighting, but it was either see the video or see him. And we thought the video might be more informational at the time. So you're going to see a dark, shadowy figure. All right, but he will give you all the information that we need.
Thank you, Mr. Williams. Good evening, everyone. It's great to see all of you out here on a rainy evening, and just very pleased to have a few minutes to speak with you about the upcoming band and orchestra trip to the Walt Disney World Resort. And I'm going to take a few moments tonight to go over some specific trip details, things like the itinerary currently stands. We'll talk about the tour pricing, the payment schedule, cancellation policy, optional travel insurance, and then make sure that we get all your questions answered before you guys head out this evening. Very excited about this trip. I know we're kind of in some interesting times in life and society, and it's kind of thrown us some curveballs, but Disney is very much up and running. They've revamped a lot of their programs along the way, and they're also gearing up towards a very exciting time in their history that you guys will all get to be a part of, and that's the 50th anniversary of the Walt Disney World Resort, which kicks off October 1st this year. So that's going to be an 18-month celebration, so you guys will be right smack dab in the middle of all that. So just kind of want to go over some basic things. Very privileged, very pleased to be here this evening. Our first opportunity to work with the music department in this capacity in some time. We are based in Indianapolis, so just a little more than an hour away. And we've been working with performance groups at the junior high, high school, collegiate levels, bands, choirs, orchestras, since 1987. We work with thousands of students and hundreds of groups a year from not only Indiana but the Midwest and from coast to coast. I've actually been in the travel business myself for 36 years. I am a former band student. I married my high school drum major. We went on to have 4 band weeks of our own, and a couple of them are actually in the choir side of things as well. And very proud, I have a very proud parent moment that my oldest daughter was drum major at Purdue University All-American Marching Band one year. So that kind of cool stuff that drives us band parents, right? That we get to see our kids do some neat things along the way. And I've been working with Disney now since 1985 as a tour operator. So it's changed dramatically over the years, and going up into the 50th anniversary, they've got more changes along the way, including new attractions coming online at some of the theme parks, Magic Kingdom, Epcot, and so on. We'll touch base about those a little bit now. And more specifically, when we come back and do an actual departure briefing meeting, which will be about a week to 2 weeks prior to departure, but we'll go through all the intimate details from A to Z. We'll talk about exact times when things are going on, and we'll talk about specific meal details, performance details, and so forth. So tonight's going to be a good overview for you, just to give you an idea of what to anticipate, kind of get the expectations set for what should be a very exciting trip. We're looking at travel dates from May 30th to June 4th. And we are going to be utilizing the services of Bales Unlimited Motor Coach Company. I know the music department's had success with them over the years. And we're actually coordinating this trip. If you see a sister school down in West Vigo Music Department, they're partnering up with you guys in terms of similar itineraries, staying in the hotel next door to you, and so forth. So we've got a lot of Vigo County down there at the same time. So we're going to depart on Monday, May 30th. We'll depart early in the afternoon. We're going to do a day-long overnight ride on the motor coaches and head south. Our first objective is we're borrowing something that West Vigo has done for many, many years, and that's do a little bit of a beach stop along the way. We're actually heading down to the West Coast, a little bit further in terms of time to get there, but well worth it because Fort DeSoto Park, Fort DeSoto Beach, the North Beach is on our agenda, and it's been rated one of the top beaches in the country for many, many years. In fact, Dr. Beach rated it #1 a number of years ago, and it's just a gorgeous beach, an opportunity for us to kind of get off the bus and take a deep breath of Florida air and kind of relax and have a little bit of fun before we head inland to the theme parks. I'm going to tell you right now, the order of theme parks is desired as we're listing them tonight, subject to change to a multitude of things. One is pending our actual workshop performance schedule. When all the groups are settled and confirmed by Disney, we'll have a much better idea of what order we need to put these in, because it logistically makes more sense to do based on certain park dates. So, for example, Disney confirms this for June 1st, as they have for the orchestra workshop at this point. It makes sense initially to consider that being our Epcot day, but we're going to kind of work through the details once we get all the performance groups confirmed at Disney. We're also looking at one of the new unique things about a visit to Disney these days, and that is a park reservation. And that's no exception groups are also part of that plan, and we'll be taking care of that process here several months just down the road, much earlier than what we typically have done in the past with groups. Disney's now telling us to get our park reservations made 6 to 8 months in advance minimum, just so we can be assured that you're in the park that you desire to be in. So we'll also be looking at an option coming up here towards the end of the trip that I'll talk to you about here in a few minutes as well. But right now, we're on the first day upon arrival in the afternoon to be to Disney's Animal Kingdom. This is the fourth and newest of the theme parks down there, opened in 1998. Disney went into one of their corners of their lovely resort area, built it from the ground up at $1 billion price tag back in 1998. That was also the same year, if you follow Disney at all, they launched a cruise line. Disney Wonder and the Disney Magic also hit. So they were spending a lot of money, so within reason, Disney says, well, it's also a good opportunity for us to raise our ticket prices like we usually do on an annual basis and start paying for these great attractions and theme parks. So anyhow, Animal Kingdom also has one of the largest mountains in all of the state of Florida. For the record, the tallest mountains in Florida are in Walt Disney World Resort. This one would happen to be Expedition Everest. There's also a fantastic safari ride there, Kilimanjaro Safaris. On my bucket list is go to do an actual safari somewhere in Africa, but I've had friends that have done a number of them in the continent of Africa. They say if you can't get there, Greg, the next best place to do it is at Animal Kingdom at the Walt Disney World Resort. So a lot of other cool attractions, shows, and so forth going on at that park as well. We're just going to stay just a few moments away from Disney at the Town Place Suites, Flamingo Crossings. Maybe a 10-minute drive from the Animal Kingdom, rather convenient to get to. So that'll be the first of our 3 nights there in the hotel. Wednesday, June 1st, right now I've penciled in Epcot based on the orchestra having a workshop confirmed, but we're waiting for the band confirmation to come through. And then we can kind of reestablish and reevaluate where we need to be with the order of theme parks. But daily will be breakfast at the hotel, and then we'll do a meal card, gift card type scenario for the theme park at a $20 value per day. So you might want to think about what kind of budget we might need to fill in the blanks with, like the lunches that are not currently included in the tour costs. I would say for any meal in the theme park, you probably ought to consider at budgeting at a minimum of $20 for a standard meal. And if you're looking to consider any of the sit-down restaurants and the nicer restaurants, you can obviously increase your budget for those as well. But 20 would definitely cover you for a standard meal in either of the 4 parks. Thursday, June 2nd, currently suggesting the Magic Kingdom Park. But again, we'll reevaluate this once the band has got their component confirmed with Disney. This is where all the Magic's going to be. Really the headquarters for the 50th anniversary will be at the Magic Kingdom Park. This is the first park opened in 1971, October 1st, so that anniversary is quickly coming up. A couple of the other tallest mountains here, Big Thunder Railroad Mountain, Space Mountain, Splash Mountain, again, part of the largest mountains in all of Florida, so go figure. But A lot of neat activities going on, parades, fireworks shows are slowly coming back online here this fall as well, and this is where all the magic began in the Florida resort. So it'll definitely be polished, cleaned, shined up, painted. Disney's already working day and night to get things back in shape and get it to really looking spectacular for an upcoming anniversary such as the 50th. So Friday, June 3rd, right now, the studios, Disney Hollywood Studios, park opened in 1989. This is a hot park right now, very, very popular with not only Toy Story Land that opened in early 2019, but Star Wars Galaxy's Edge opened up later in 2019, and it just commands large crowds still. Obviously, through the pandemic, they had closed for a while, but those crowds are still very popular and very much interested in visiting the studios. So we'll spend the final day there. The one option that we're looking at based on director requests is to also give you an opportunity in lieu of this particular day would be to go over to the Universal theme parks, Universal Studios Orlando and Islands of Adventure, which will be a park-to-park. You get to visit both parks in the same day. The qualifier on this would be that it is a supplement, it's an increase because it's an upcharge. We're going to need to have you do a 4-day Disney ticket, and one park per day in the 4 Disney parks. We're going to do 3 Disney parks and then 1 day Universal. It is an increase of $82 because the Universal ticket puts us above and beyond where we pay for 4 days at Disney. And we will have to make decisions on this within the next 60 days. We'll talk about registration in a moment, but how this is going to unfold right now, because there's a lot of changes in what we need to do with the Disney ticket ordering system and so forth. But once you're registered, we'll get an email out to everybody with details on what to do to consider the Universal park option, and if you choose to consider that, what you'll need to do and what time frame you need to commit to. It'll be rather early, probably within 60 days by the time we get to the November payment deadline. And that's simply because we need to get the Disney tickets ordered to again ensure that we're in the specific theme park that we want to visit. Universal also has the qualifier that we would need a minimum of 20 people to participate. Now we should be able to incorporate and encompass both Terre Haute North and West Vigo, those numbers. So if we have 20 as a total group for that one day, that would be what we meet the bare minimum. But again, if we don't meet that 20 minimum, we'll basically essentially say that everybody's doing the 4-day Disney program that we are planning on to begin with. So just food for thought. The Universal parks, a lot of great rides and attractions, probably best known for the Wizarding World of Harry Potter. With the park-to-park, the 2 parks in one day, you would get an opportunity of visiting both components of the Wizarding World of Harry Potter, plus riding on Hogwarts Express. So that would be certainly an option, as well as any other attraction or ride in the parks as well. Regardless, the intent would be on Friday evening then to depart Central Florida and take an overnight ride back to Indiana. The one thing we do want to be mindful of, and we might take the liberties of switching things around as we get a little bit closer and working with Disney, but we need to be mindful that Universal sometimes typically works with a different park hour schedule, and this being our last day, we need to have things coordinated where we're all gathering and leaving at a similar time in the evening. So we could potentially flip this to another day, but we're going to hold out on that until we get all the, again, the performance components confirmed through the Disney Imagination Campus team. Saturday, June 4th, then, we'll be on our way back, late afternoon arrival back here at Terre Haute North Vigo High School after 3 nights, 4 days in Central Florida, as well as the beach visit. So we get into tour pricing components. With this particular hotel, we do have the option of going 5 per room. We'll leave that at the discretion of the directors and the students as they sign up for the rooms, which will probably take place around 2 to 3 month time period before departure. But we offer that option simply because 5 in a room reduces the cost as much as it possibly can be. Taking one room rate divided by 5, that's the quint rate. 4 in a room, the quad, 3 in a room, triple, twin, single. Adults, we will consider you at the twin rate, but if you want to work with other family members or other travelers that are going and kind of help formulate your room to get 3 or 4 or 5 in, you're welcome to do that if that's the case. Once the rooming lists are established through the music department, we're very happy to afford you the lower prices. But for that, we make the assumption that your price is going to be at the twin occupancy. If you want to bring it down with more people in the room, you're very welcome to do that. I'd rather be the one reducing your price than telling you at the end of the balance due time that, well, we started with your quad price and you didn't get anybody in your room, so we're charging you higher, more money. I'd rather bring your price down. So our objective also is based on 90 is our desired goal. You do see the options if we have only 70 travel, 80 travel, or if we were to get to 100, which is about 2 full buses, pretty close to that. But 90 is our goal right now. The current price, 1148, is kind of where our initial benchmark is as we're moving forward. As for the payment schedule, we've got some things going on rather quickly just to get the ball rolling and get a commitment going and start making payments towards this trip and spread them out as much as possible. The deposit up front is $100. That is one non-refundable component at this point in time, requested by September 9th. You'll go online, you register, you make a deposit, and then we'll have subsequent monthly payments starting in October. These payments from October up until through the April payment will be refundable. Should you have to cancel, they are refundable. Up to 60 days prior is refundable, with the exception of the non-refundable deposit. We're looking at November 9th as our probable cutoff date for the Universal Parks option. You'll be invoiced about 30 days prior to departure, and the final payment is due on May 9th. And then everything becomes non-refundable at 60 days prior. If there's any fundraising that is part of the tour, that's totally acceptable on our end. The directors will have access to an online portal where they can upload information and let us know what's going on and who's earned what types of funds. We just ask that the school has that available to be applied towards your individual travel accounts by May 2nd, which gives us an opportunity to get the process posted accurately to the individual travel account, and then shows up when it's time for you to look at your balance due. The last day to cancel would be April 1. That would be the 60 days prior to departure. Anything up to March 31st is refundable except for the $100 deposit. That simply allows us to go to work on your behalf and start making plans on an official capacity. After April 1 or April 1 on, everything 100% non-refundable. We just have at that point have to start committing the final payments, the final details to all the travel vendors involved, including Disney, including motor coach, including hotel, etc. So kind of give you a timeline on how we're working through all this. We're at the top right at the trip kickoff meeting. We'll make some payments along the way. Nothing pops up on this timeline until 60 days prior, where the final rooming list will be due. All that will be coordinated through the music department. You won't give your request to us. That will be coordinated on the school end. But they will go online in their director's portal, be able to formulate those lists with very little difficulty whatsoever. 60 days, also last day to cancel with refund. Fundraising payment deadline at 35 days. At 30 days in, we will send out the final invoices. Final trip payment is due 3 weeks or 21 days prior. We're going to come back and do that departure briefing I talked about around 10 days, depending on what works best in the school calendar. And then before you know it, it's May 30 and then we're departure time. We have an online program that's very, very easy to manipulate and work through. You can access it 24/7 where we got internet capabilities. You can make secure payments. You can do your trip info, payment schedule, so forth. All the accounting and payment is handled internally. We do not save or secure any type of financial details, no credit card information. So you'll need to be asked to put that in every time. but we're in the travel business. We don't want to be in the financial security business. So instead of trying to secure and save those numbers, as some companies will tell you they do, none of that's saved, and you just simply need to enter it on every payment. So you're going to go online, you're going to register. There is on your handout on the second page, basically some very straightforward online registration instructions. The two things you need to take away from the meeting is the web address, musictravel.com, and then there is a trip number you'll need to enter. That's the 2205-5-45 number. Those two things, with that, you can get online and you get your registration done here. But I've got a video I want to show you, just kind of give you an overview, so when you get onto the website, you kind of have a feeling of where you're going.
Whether you are a first-time or returning traveler with us, you'll use My Music Travel to register for your trip, make payments, and gain access to travel information. In less than 5 minutes, you can register and pay your deposit. To begin, please visit us at musictravel.com and click on the Trip Login button at the top right-hand corner. Returning travelers will enter your email address and password. If you don't remember, just click on Lost Password. If you're a first-time user, click the Register as a New User button and complete the form with the information of the person who is financially responsible for your trip. This is not necessarily the traveler's information. That will come later. Read the Universal License Agreements acknowledging that you are 18 years or older by checking the box and then click Accept. Now you're ready to register your travelers. Start by entering the trip number. Given to you by your group's leader, it will look something like this. Then, fill in the required information for the traveler you're registering. Should your traveler have any special needs, such as limited mobility or special dietary concerns, please check the special needs box so we can reach out to you. Once the requested information is provided, you may enter additional travelers or click Complete Registration. After adding all your travelers, click Make a Payment to submit your deposit. Enter the payment amount in the box next to the name of each person, then click Continue. Select your payment method and click Continue, provide the payment information, and click Pay Now. Your receipt will be sent to your email address. Please note, payments must be made on or before the due dates listed on the tour conditions page. If you are not able to meet the payment schedule, please contact Music Travel to discuss an alternative payment plan. For frequently asked questions and a user guide, go to the MTC website or email us at support@musictravel.com.
All right, so it's pretty straightforward. When you get into the website, you'll be able to maneuver through it rather easily. The one big thing I do want to recommend to you that when you are registering, use whatever contact information, especially parents, if you're the ones that are making the payments, make sure it's your email address or your phone number, whatever you decide to put in there for contact purposes. There is a history of when students register on their own and they use a student email address and they don't look at it for months at a time, and all of a sudden the invoices are going to them and the parents are wondering, why am I not making payments for the trip? It's because you're not getting the information. So we ask that you put, as the parent or the guardian, to put your contact info in there. It's also a good source for us to use in case we need to contact you as a group for any reason. Again, which we'll most likely be doing regarding the Universal Park option. So that's important to have in there as well. Some contact information as you go through this. If you have any accounting issues, whether as you're setting up your account or as you're going through the payment schedule process or questions on balance due or things like that, you're going to want to address it to Barbara. She's my accounting team expert, accounting@musictravel.com. We'll get an email to her, and you can address those questions as well with her. My email address is right there as well. It's also on this form, I believe, on the back page of page 2. You're very welcome to email me if you have any trip-related questions, and I'm happy to address them. I would suggest if you have questions for the good of the group, I would certainly suggest you run them by the directors as well or copy them in so we can kind of get the word out to everyone. And then we're going to also talk about maybe not. talk about some optional travel insurance here. So, in your handout is a packet on some information, 2 pages on what's called Student Deluxe, Group Travel Protection. I'm going to emphasize to you that this is optional, purely optional. I want you to encourage it. I'm going to spend a couple minutes talking about it because I want you to go home and at some point make sure you have that conversation to do what's in the best interest of you, your individual or your family that's traveling. This particular package we partner with through a company called Travel Insured International. They're one of the top 3 or 4 key players in the travel industry for insurance. And I've worked with all of them over the years. Travel Insured's been great. They file claims promptly, they communicate well, and they just are very reputable. And part of their package coverage that we can provide to you is a component called cancel for any reason, or also abbreviated as CFAR, cancel for any reason. You have the option, should you need to cancel the trip, to cancel up to 48 hours prior to departure, 2 days before departure, and receive up to 75% of what's non-refundable at the time of cancellation. So if we're talking about April 1 is the 60-day cutoff, between April 1 and May 30th, everything is non-refundable, 100% non-refundable. This gives you production up to 2 days prior to departure. I will tell you right now, what is covered for under cancel for any reason is COVID. That's the big question we get these days. When the pandemic hit in March of 2020, number of groups, thousands of groups and thousands of students across the country were impacted, and very few of them had considered the option of purchasing the insurance when they had the opportunity. I'm going to tell you right now, that's not my decision. I'm certainly not going to stand here and tell you that you must buy it. I'm going to tell you you need to at least consider it or take a look at the details in the budget and see if it's viable for you or not. But not only COVID, a multitude of things. Any reason, cancel for any reason up to 48 hours. Parents, if you're in line for a job transfer somewhere out of the county, out of the state, and you got to pick up and move, covered. You have a medical injury that should be covered with the medical component, but you fall down the stairs and break your leg a week before, can't make the trip, covered. There's a lot of things that you can certainly be considering that to be under this coverage. The premium is a one-time premium. There's a link you'll find on the Music Travel website when you register that will take you to Travel Insured. All your communication, all your payments can be for the insurance will be directly with Travel Insured. We step out. Our expertise is in performance group travel, not in the insurance field, but we want to make sure you guys are set up to be successful with this. It's a one-time premium. If your tour price is in the range, for example, of $1,001 to $1,500, it's a $61.50 premium. If your tour price, for example, is between $1,501 and $2,000, it's an $81 premium. The qualifier here is you must purchase and make your payment with Travel Insured before you make your final trip payment to Music Travel Consultants. So, is it worth purchasing the coverage just as long as only the deposit is non-refundable? Maybe, maybe not. You'd still get 75% of that deposit back, but is it worth putting towards that? So you might want to consider, okay, once we get into that 60 days, is the coverage at that point worth us pursuing or not? But what you'll want to do is make sure that you purchase the insurance coverage, the CFAR coverage, before you make your final trip payment to us. If you're paid in full to us and then try to go purchase Travel Insured package, they will not allow that to happen. There's a pretty strict requirement from them these days. Also needs to happen prior to our balance due date, which I believe is May 9th. So before 21 days, you need to pay for the insurance and before you pay Music Travel for the balance due. I know it's a lot to consider, but I would take a look at the coverage you get online. You can certainly inquire with Travel Insured directly if you have questions that are not answered by this 2-page handout and go from there. But I'm going to tell you, based on what we saw in the travel industry in 2020, Life would have been a lot easier for a lot of folks had they considered the insurance and purchased it prior to forced cancellations. Realistically, moving forward, I know we're dealing with things. The Delta variant is pretty much in the news these days, but I also got a hunch that it's going to take something dramatic beyond what we're even thinking about at this point in time for something like the state of Florida to close, for Disney to close again. Disney took a very long time to reorganize and reopen and went through a lot of criteria and a lot of contingency plans. And I can't promise you that they've got a plan for everything, but I can tell you, knowing the way their mentality works at their higher level, they've probably thought through a lot of scenarios, a lot of options that should something happen down the road, they've probably got a plan to stay open in some case. So should these venues not close, should they still be open and running, and we're well into 60 days or less prior to departure, it's going to be a judgment call whether or not the school would ever happen to decide to cancel, whether you as individuals or parents decide you're not going to travel. The best way to protect that would be to have the option of travel insurance coverage. So, again, I know I spent a lot of time on something that's optional, something that may not be of interest to you, but I need to make sure that all of you are aware that it's out there and it is a solid product. Yes, it costs more money, but we insure home, auto, life as adults. Travel is one of those things that's become more and more prominent in the insurance field as well. So, food for thought. And then all the contact info, you should find it on your handout regardless, but if you need to reach us at any point in time, communicate with us. Also communicate with your directors. It's very important that they know what's going on along the way so they can make sure they can address things and well in advance if it's for the good of the group. Julian?
So I will tell you that, just coming over so I can get on camera. And I would tell you that this entire presentation that they just did, I'll put the PowerPoint and everything, will be on the band's website. It's really easy to remember, thnbands.org. It won't be up there till the end of the week, so don't get all mad if you look up tomorrow morning at 6 a.m. and you're like, he said it would be on there, and it's not on there. No, I'm going home and going to bed after this. So give me to the end of the week, and I promise I'll have it up there. If your students are in band, at least, I can tell you I'll put it on all of their Canvas sites as well, or at least a link to it if I don't have enough storage space on there to put it on there. So you'll have access to this, and so the questions will still be there. I will tell you that most of the questions you're going to have for me, specifically concerning travel, I'm going to say give me a day or two because I'm going to email him. I mean, that's why we hired them. So don't be mad, and Mr. Foster is going to be the same way. So don't be mad at us if we don't have an answer right away, because we want to make sure that we're giving you the right answer and not what we think it is. Moving forward, performance stuff, we're not real sure yet. We're still waiting on Disney, at least for the bands, to tell us what's going on. I can tell you that marching-wise, Disney has said don't count on it. We're several spots back, and so we probably won't be marching. Instead, we'll be doing a clinic-type deal. I've discussed that with all the classes, so they kind of know what's going on with that, so you can ask more questions to your students about that. It's a really cool, neat experience, too, and so we'll figure that out as we get there. And if, you know what, if they say we don't have room for that either, cool, fun Disney trip. So, I mean, we'll figure it out as we go with them. Does that make sense? So, are there any questions that you can come up with tonight? All right, very back. I'm okay.
I just wondered when you register on the site for photo ID name, we put our student for that and then the parent, you know?
When you register on the site,
It says photo ID name.
Do you put your student or them?
It would be under the traveler's name. It'd be this. I'm assuming it's for the traveler. It would be the photo ID name. So whatever is the full name that appears on the driver's license, or it's a lot more geared towards an international type travel trip anyhow. So a full name would be what we request. That way, just there's an official record of that. But if they don't have a driver's license yet, because they're not of age, just give us their full first name and last name, that'd be fine.
Yes, sir.
Let's go back to the travel insurance. I'm assuming that's if we would get sick and couldn't go because of COVID. If they cancel, Disney or the school cancels, then the money's returned, correct?
I'm making sure I get this right. If the trip cancels, if you cancel as an individual because you can't go because you're sick, or the group,
I can understand,
Yes.
understand that as
Yes.
a travel insurance, just like a plane.
yes.
But if the trip is canceled due to the school or Disney, the money will be returned.
If the trip is canceled by the school or school system, or there's a mandate that says no travel allowed out of Vigo County, yes, the policy would cover that.
But we'd lose our money if we didn't have that policy, if the trip never happens? Would you
If-
not have insurance?
If you do not have any insurance and the trip cancels and we're within the 60 days, it would be subject to whatever the vendors can provide back to you. If the trip cancels a month before departure and you've paid in full and Vigo County Schools says you can't travel, it would be subject to whatever the vendors can return back. I will tell you, based on 2020, after going through the ordeal of trying to get money back from vendors, and then overall, in the general consensus, we as an industry were able to match the insurance policy, and for the most part got about 75% back to everyone. We've been off the record, on the side, told by many, many vendors that it's not realistic it'll ever happen again. So for me to stand up here and say, oh, we've been through it once, if it happens again, we can probably fight to get 75% back. I don't have that confidence based on vendor support, because that money's all paid to them and then they disperse it however they need within their corporations and companies. So I would tell you right now not to count on, even if the trip is canceled by the school and you have no coverage and we're within that 100 days or that 60 days non-refundable, I would not count on much coming back. We will do whatever we can. We will move whatever mountains we can. But we are at that point, because we've had to be upfront and tell you at that 60-day mark is when we start paying all the balances off on behalf of you. That's up to the vendors. And most of their contracts read non-refundable at a certain date and time. So to give you a peace of mind, I would tell you to go after the insurance policy. I just came back from a significant trip for my family, and we went ahead and purchased insurance, and it's, not to confuse you, but it's a lot more expensive if you do adult travel as opposed to student group travel. And part of me was like, well, kind of feel like I'm throwing money to the wind. You know, I'm not going to get sick and nothing's going to happen. And fortunately, we had a successful trip. Everything went well. We came back, and that money, I spent a lot of extra money for what could be deemed as nothing, but I also, for the entire length of the trip, had a peace of mind that I knew if something went wrong, if one of us got sick or got COVID, because there's a policy in there that helps cover quarantine costs, I knew that there was some recourse, some way to us help recoup some more funds. So I'm telling you right now, if you're spending $1,100, $1,200 on a trip, another $60 or $80, I know it's a lot of money. I know it's not my money. I'm asking you to spend money, but I'm telling you, it could be an opportunity for you to have a peace of mind through the planning process. And it's not, you can do it right now, you can purchase it immediately, but I would say maybe give it some time. Just don't forget about it. The biggest thing I hear from regret from parents is, oh, I completely forgot about it. I made my trip balance to me to travel, and I forgot to buy my insurance before that. So keep it in the forefront as much as you can, and maybe post this on the fridge so as a daily reminder, something, I don't know. But I'm not going to tell you got to do it, and I'm going to tell you from all my years in the travel business and from what we've been through this pandemic so far, please consider it. That's all I don't like heartbreak. I don't like to see student groups not being able to go on trips, but at least if I knew they had some recourse and got some of their money back or the majority of their money back, I just feel better that they have an opportunity to check that investment. So.
I'll come to you next real quick. I just want to make one quick point that just as an FYI, if you're a band or orchestra student, this is mainly geared towards band people because the orchestra really doesn't have fees for too much. But if you owe 1 penny to the band or orchestra in fees for whatever, you don't go on the trip. And that's across the board. And it doesn't matter if we get up to the day before we're leaving, if you owe, and you've paid and paid and paid, if you owe money to the bands or the orchestras, you're not going, and you just lost all your money. Does that make sense? Okay, so all of your fees for marching band or indoor percussion or winter guard or have to be paid in full before you go. Okay? This year's winter groups, we make a little bit of exception in that because it's kind of a big deal right off the bat for that. So we work with you and we have a deadline on that. But as far as if you still owe marching band fees from 2017, you better get them paid before you go. And for all the band people, all that information is on Charms. If you don't know how to get on there, let me know. We'll get you on there. You already have an account and it's already going. Okay, for the orchestra people, talk to Mr. Foster. I know there's a very few things that he charges for on things like solo and ensemble and whatnot, but that'll be on there with him. Okay? Question?
Mine was a follow-up to the insurance question. It looks like even with the smallest number of people going, that the max that the kids we'd have to do the insurance would be for the 1,000, 1,500. So if we decided to do it now, it's the 6,150. Is that the way I'm reading that?
Yeah, the simple scheme of things with the student pricing, like based on 90, Quint, 1148, yeah, that would fall under the.
Yeah, I'm just looking at any of them. Even if you look at 70 with all the way down to 2 in a room, that's still only 1,452. That's still below 1,500.
Yeah.
So it's still only 61.
Yeah.
50.
If you're not clear on, I think all these are pretty straightforward because they're simply under the $1,500 mark or the single occupancy is about.
Right.
Yeah, you can pursue that at any point in time.
Okay.
I guess I don't have any reservations if you do it right away. I'm just saying, frustratingly, that it's not required to do it immediately. But again, before the 21 days, before you make your final payment. But if you want to get it done and over with, fantastic. Yeah, then you've got another peace of mind. Did I answer that?
Yep.
Okay. All right.
Yes, ma'am.
And are the prices subject to change?
Prices are subject to change. They would be most likely subject to change if we had a change in traveler count. So right now we're looking at the desired goal of 90. We have an option for 80, 70, or even we got a little bit larger to 100. For the pricing to change, we'd have to go off the scale. So it would be 50, 60, 40, 30. We'd only decide to travel that we'd have a change in price. Odds are good that there'd probably be some type of an increase because we have fewer people paying across the board prorated costs, like the motor coaches, for example, are one lump sum and they're divided amongst these number of travelers. So in terms of pricing, subject to change, unless we dove into tour inclusions, changed the meals, changed the itinerary where it impacted the tour price. I think we've been through this pretty thoroughly up front. That the only option we have on the side is the universal component. That would not be an impact either to the tour price, so we would not see that change at all. So
Disney's locked in, the buses are locked in.
yeah, everything is based on 2022 pricing with Disney, with the buses, with the hotel, et cetera, all that.
So I'm trying to think with the Delta variant out there and all this insurance talk, why are you starting payments so soon? Why don't we wait a couple months? I had my trip canceled in April. The airlines gave it back and the resort gave it back, but it sounds like you're a done deal on this deal. If it's stopped for any reason to corona or the COVID, you're just out of luck. Even though we had nothing to do with it canceling, unless you buy the additional insurance.
I think the way it's structured now allows everybody to make payments towards the trip without wondering, can I come up with the funds within a shorter amount of time? It allows us to secure the pieces of the puzzle If we were to wait months, let's say we wait till December, I can't hold buses, I can't hold hotel, I can't hold Disney tickets on a definite basis, so that means we'd be pursuing them at that time frame. I said December as an example, but any other time beyond this, there's no guarantee of getting availability. I will tell you right now in the industry, it's heavily supply and demand. The demand is outpacing supply. The challenges we're having with motor coach companies specifically, let's say a motor coach company has 20 buses in their fleet. You may have 6 drivers or 8 drivers. The ratio of driver to motor coach is not good right now. All those folks were out of work for months. Many of them went to find work elsewhere. And it's, even with restaurants, as you've seen, and the staffing is minimal in some cases, and they're trying to retrain. I cannot come back to you if we were to push this down the pike and say we can do it at the same price. I can't guarantee we'd be at the same hotel or a hotel that's in the budget, or we're all at the same hotel. We're right now looking at this particular weekend in May and 1st of June has now become very popular down in Florida and Disney. We've already discussed the challenges of maybe actual band performance itself may not be available. I know hotels are far and few in between for groups of this size. And the student travel industry is held at a different level, different status than the rest of the travel industry. We have a lot of those calls come in from parents and say, well, what do you mean I booked my flight to Florida? I got my money back from the airline. I think we saw maybe 10% at best of student groups that were refunded by the airline. Everybody else was issued a credit. Some of those credits were absolutely miserable. They had to use them within the same calendar year last year. Well, we all know the pandemic went on for months and months, and then in some cases it's still going on. I just stand up here and say, be conscious that we could come back at a later date and restart things and then provide the experience you want at a budget you might be able to be comfortable with. So,
Just a question, how many stars are these hotels?
how many stars?
How are they rated with it?
They're Marriott products, so they're probably somewhere in the range of 3 to 4 stars to begin with. They would be under the limited service capacity, but breakfasts are included. The Town Place Suites and their sister property, the Spring Hill Suites, where West Vigo is going to be at, are in a resort environment. They share a resort pool. They have workout facilities. They have dining facilities. They even have a rehearsal facility if we did need to take the band out into the grass and practice. They've got great parking facilities, which is important to us, so we keep the buses nearby. You can get online, Google them, and then get in a better sense. I don't, non-international hotels, I really don't rate stars a whole lot. I just kind of put them in a category. But you'll be very pleased with this. They're fairly new in terms of this whole complex opened up in 2016. So it's fairly new in terms of hotels in the Disney and Central Orlando area.
Leslie.
I just wondered how fundraising works for also what we make in payments. If we follow the payment schedule, then by the actual due date, we will have paid $1,090. And if we've done fundraising to pay for the trip, then we might have paid most of our child's amount for the trip. So how does that?
So the way we will do fundraising is, I can only speak for the band on this part, is that as soon as I know you're on the trip, and I can go in and pull up all that stuff and see families that are on there, once I look into your charms and you have X amount of money over top of your fees, and all your fees are paid for, then I can take that balance and I can send it to Music Travel, and they can apply it to, and I can do that monthly above each one of your, or right before each one of your pay dates. Does that make sense? And so that way we can stay on top, and it'll lower some of your pay date, or some of your pay for that. But I can't speak for Mr. Foster at all, and I'm not going to try to. So you can ask him how that's going to work, but I can tell you what I can do on mine.
If you're anticipating getting heavily involved in fundraising through the school and the music department, and you feel like you're going to generate a large number of funds towards your trip, I would probably suggest get the deposit in place, That allows us to officially count you amongst the actual fully registered people to begin with. And then maybe start making the first payment or two. But if you feel like, okay, I've got fundraising coming online, it's going to be a number of hundreds of dollars, for example, and you want to hold off making payments to us because that's going to kick in, email Barbara and our accounting team and just let her put a note in your record that says, okay, we don't need to freeze your account because we're anticipating $300 in fundraising to come in the next 4 to 6 weeks or whatever the case is. So communicate with us. We're totally understanding that fundraising sometimes it gets off to a slow start because we're one kicking off the trip and then now it has to get into play. And then fundraisers take a while to sell and then they count the funds and get them processed and get them into the right hands and get them to us. So we just ultimately want to get them in a timely manner so we can invoice you accordingly and fairly for the balance too.
Yes, sir.
I'm wondering about meals and how much extra money the kids should bring on the trip and out-of-pocket expenses. So could you summarize what meals are provided by the trip and which meals are the kids responsible for during the
Absolutely. If you guys want to go to the first page of the handout, I'll kind of walk you through this so you have an idea where to refer to in case you forget about it between now and getting home. But the meal package starts on May 31st, our first full day in Florida, one of the 4 days in Florida. And you'll see in parentheses a B or D, that's breakfast, dinner, that's what's included. So in this case, lunch is not included on May 31, lunch is not included on June 1, lunch is not included on June 2, lunch is not included on June 3, and then lunch, should we deem a stop necessary on the way back, June 4, would be lunch as well. For budget purposes, you can spend whatever amount you take there. If you get a reservation at one of the dine-in restaurants, especially at Epcot, which is notorious for sit-down restaurants, you can spend $30, $40, $50. I'm going to suggest to you to kind of keep in mind that maybe 20 to 25, depending on your diet concerns, your diet needs. I mentioned that $20 will cover a standard meal counter, fast food counter type meal. If you want something above and beyond that, then I'd probably start approaching 25 to 30 meal. But I would budget right now, if I were sending one of my students on the trip, I would say easily I'm starting $20 per meal for lunch per day. So there's 4 lunches there, $80. If we do fast food maybe as a stop or a food court or something, we're going to be more efficient with our time more than anything on the en-route meals. Maybe $10, maybe 15, I don't know. I know fast food's not as cheap as it used to be, but I would kind of keep that in mind. That's the type of meal stop we're going to anticipate making. Coming down, we're trying to be a little more cognizant of our drive time. I'm suggesting pack something from home, bring something from home. We'll make stops along the way. But at this point, unless the directors advise me otherwise, we don't have an intended meal stop on the way down for lunch, but we will for dinner. We'll make a stop for dinner, $10 to $15 for that meal. Maybe, again, it's going to be something efficient, whether it's fast food driven, food court at a local mall or a type scenario. We get people in and out within an hour and keep moving down the road. So 80, 190, maybe start in a budget of $100 for meals and go from there.
I can tell you from past trips, there are certain places in Disney where for $20 you're getting like half a chicken and half a rack of ribs. The Starlight Express in the middle of whatever it is, Magic Kingdom, that's the one, okay? That we've watched students go in there and get one meal and split it, and it's plenty of food. I mean, even for big guys like me, like it's legit plenty of food. Also, we tell them to load up on breakfast in the morning, and we watch students that load up on breakfast and then eat $5 Mickey ice cream or whatever for lunch, and then have dinner that night. So it's kind of one of those personal things, but there are cheap ways to get out of worrying about too much on how expensive Disney prices can be for food.
And a Disney trip is probably one of the few opportunities of places I would say lunch you can get by. If we were doing some other trip where we were doing multiple stops during a given day, it might be a different scenario. But again, he's spot on. Take advantage of the hotel breakfast. That's part of your room rate. And it's usually a pretty good spread at the Marriott properties to begin with. What we might be considering doing moving into 2022, we just came out of what groups did travel for this summer of 2021. And per Disney's recommendation, we went to gift card mode and put all the meals onto one card. I'm telling you this now in case we decide to go in the best interest of the group to do that. But the big thing right now in the 4 Disney parks is mobile app ordering. Very limited counter service or interaction with Disney cast members and employees for meal payment. There are ways to do it. It's a lot slower process. It might be one register for 50 people in line as opposed to those who have done the ordering on the app. The gift card allows us to allow you to access those funds. You put in your card number in the mobile app, and you make your order. And let's say you don't spend 20 bucks on the meal, then you still have that money as you can carry over to the next meal. And if you go over, you can pull out of what's still on your card as opposed to wondering how am I going to pay the difference if my check comes to $22.50 and I've only got a $20 meal card for that. So we've gone that route based on Disney's recommendation. For the foreseeable future, that might be something we're considering doing, but I'm kind of leaving the option open right now because our intent is trying to make sure that all the travelers, the students have easy access to food during their time in the park, and they have money to cover those meals accordingly. So this kind of keep flexibility on that stage, and when we come back in the departure week, and the amount's not going to change what's built in here. We're not going to lessen that for you and still charge you the same. I don't think that. We might change the method of how you're going to have in your hands to make payment towards those meals to make it easier for you. So.
Yes, ma'am.
Are we basing the price off of the 90 on our payments?
That's the objective right now, to base it off the 90 travelers for now, yes.
If it's over or under, are we reimbursed if it ends up being less, or?
Yes, the simple thing is if you make your payment, your balance due at 21 days prior, you will know what the exact tour price is based on from your invoice that came to you a week or two earlier. If you've overpaid and the price is lower, then you will be receiving a refund back.
I have one more question. When we are registering and we have kids who want to room together, where do we put that at?
You're going to want to submit that in a timely manner to your directors.
We'll do rooming lists.
Yeah.
Okay.
Much
Yeah.
closer.
Yeah, that's all coordinated on their end, so they can make sure that they've got everybody covered and in the room type occupancy. If you have a specific request or desire, I know some parents have decided, well, I'm only going to place my student in a room of 2, and they want a room with so-and-so, then that's something you need to communicate with your directors in advance. I would say 3 or 4 months out, start getting that in writing to them, because we're going to ask for that final rooming assignment, rooming list to be completed no later than 60 days prior to departure. So if you have specific requests on roomings, again, that needs to come to your directors. If I get an email, great, thank you, but I'm going to forward it right back to them because they're the ones that are actually compiling the rooming list and know who's going to be rooming whom. That's totally on the school's responsibility. We don't know the students, we don't know who'd want to room whom and so forth, and they need to have final say just to make sure all their bases are covered. So.
Any other questions? Oh, got like 4 hands.
That's
So
okay.
right here with the pink mask first. That was the first thing I saw.
Graduation. What is the date for graduation?
As far as I know, and we were told it's the Sunday before we leave. I don't know the exact date of that. Hold on, and I'll tell you. Exact date even. Yes, the 29th. That's what I've been told. Now. Okay? All right? Here. Yes. Yes.
Okay, when, in your number of 90, that is students / parents, correct?
Correct.
And what if a parent isn't keen on riding a bus with teenagers for that long? I'm gonna tell you to take that up with your director.
What we've not discussed yet, if they're accommodating anybody that's not riding the bus, especially in the chaperone capacity. I'm happy to address that with them once they determine what they feel like they want to allow. But if you decide as a parent that, hey, I want to be part of the trip, but I don't want to ride the bus, discuss it with them first, and if they sign off on it, then we will come up with a contingency plan for you. We're happy to accommodate everybody, but that's something I have to run through them first.
There was a question somewhere back there. Yeah, yes.
Can we bring bags on the bus?
So you get one suitcase, or in other words, like one checked bag and one carry-on bag. And that's it. Okay? And band seniors, swear to God, if you ask if we can bring a carry-on, I'm going to come smack all of you. And that's on the YouTube video too. So, okay, so you can bring one checked bag and one carry-on bag. Yes.
If they're bringing their instruments,
That doesn't count.
okay.
Okay?
When we come back and do the departure briefing, we'll talk all about packing and carry-ons, which I recommend to be backpack size or smaller.
Yeah.
The one suitcase, your instrument, you got a performance attire perhaps, a uniform maybe. We'll talk about, more importantly, what not to pack and all the specific details of the timing of the trip and the final itinerary. We'll also discuss on how to log in and get access to the Music Travel app, where you can follow along and have all the itinerary and the rooming list, and all your assignments as an individual will be in your specific login. We'll have all that available to you. We will also address Disney as the ticket status changes. I know a lot of you are probably thinking, well, what about Fast Pass? Well, right now, it's not a feature that's even out there for Disney to throw back at us and say, here's what you need to think about. Should that come back online, we'll make sure that we've got all the game plans ready to go and you have opportunity to access that. But we'll take it one step at a time, and then as things come online with Disney, if we need to communicate with you, we certainly will. We'll make sure the directors are always in the loop from time to time as well.
Any other questions? Going once, going twice, sold. All right, if you do come up with questions, once again, thnbands.org. Give me through the weekend. I'll get this video up there. I'll get our website updated. It'll have the PowerPoint. It'll have the video. It's also on YouTube. You can find it there. Ask Mr. Foster, myself, email these people, and we'll be good to go. Thank you for coming.